really came back. And, I know, we'll probably talk a little bit about this later, but new construction's definitely taking a sales hit at the moment.
Big time.
Existing, not so much. I think the individual neighborhoods we talked about on Monday, we can cherry pick a couple other ones if you want. But, I think it's very location specific on how they're doing and how they're not doing. But I think across the board, new construction, it's interesting, some of the conversations I'm having with the folks in the trades, there's the market, right? And then there's the labor to get it done and lack of inventory and of material. So in a weird way, they're nervous. And on the other hand, not so much, right? Maybe this will give an opportunity for things to kind of catch up from the new construction side of the house. The downside to that is, if we're not turning over a bunch of new construction, it's putting more pressure on the
existing price points. Yeah, Keith Smith, Yes Realty Partners, one of the presenting partners of this show, YesRealtyPartners.com. Keith and Jonas Smith and their team, trusted advisors. So I was excited for today's show because of your experience in commercial real estate. I was excited for today's show because of your experience in affordable housing or housing affordability.
And you just love seeing my
I enjoy seeing you. I also know that you have spent years of your life on the Kim's Market, IGA.
Not even years. I spent money working on engineering and all that stuff.
Money and years of his life, Keith Smith has spent on this.
I was just looking at some notes. I started it in 2015, looking at seeing if there was a way we can utilize that, let's call it 2 acres, for affordable housing or housing affordability. I just could never get folks to come along with the purchase price of 3.5, so we now know what it was because it's recorded.
That was for a few parcels.
It's a total of 5.
Yeah, not just Kim's.
Well, it's a total of 5. It's actually one
big thing.
5 parcels owned by Kim. There's actually an additional series of parcels which I don't think was purchased in this go around that would have made it, if you look at it from a geometric perspective, it would have squared it off a little bit. Would have been a little bit easier to develop on it. But yeah, I was trying to do it. Just couldn't get the nonprofits on board, money. Just couldn't raise the capital to go ahead and do it. So the good news, somebody has bought it. We know who bought it, and
Woodard Properties, Keith Woodard. He and his son Anthony.
Yeah, and the question I think arises is, what are they going to do with it, right? What's the ability to do, what can they do with it today? And then I was taking a look last night, what the impact of the FLUM, the new future land use map, and or zoning changes that are impending may impact that parcel. Don't want to get too much into the weeds on it, but it's interesting if somebody takes a time to look at the FLUM map and look at where these parcels are. If they adopt the zoning ordinances per the map, which I suspect they will, it cuts those series of parcels into multiple zonings, which is, instead of being all one zoning, which is Cherry Avenue, what they call CH right now, which is interesting because I don't think you're going to be able to do matter of fact, I know if they adopt those zoning, it'll become less dense and different use than what it is at the moment.
John, John Blair is watching the program on LinkedIn. John Blair, I would love some comments from you on Cherry Avenue and the Kim's Market parcel. $3.5 million. The Woodards purchased this. So we'll set the stage for those that don't follow this as closely as us.
Yeah, we kind of breathe this stuff.
We're all over this stuff. Yeah. So this piece of property, arguably one of the most important in Fifeville. As you're driving into Fifeville, this is what you see across from the park.
That's exactly right. Right next to Southern Development's showroom with Frank Bailiff, which was ahead of his time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
years and years ahead of his time to go ahead and buy. It was the old florist.
Flower shop.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So you pull into this African-American neighborhood, right?
Traditionally. Yeah.
Traditionally, historically. Across from the park is a former grocery store. It is now home to a subcontractor that does work at the University of Virginia but is headquartered in the Shenandoah Valley. They chose to open a satellite office to park their heavy construction equipment, their vehicles, their trucks, etc., as opposed to having the cost to drive them to the valley after working at UVA. It is a grocery desert, which is unfortunate.
Without a doubt.
Anyone who spent any time riding public transportation with groceries knows how difficult that is, especially if you're buying groceries for a family. It's one thing to do it as a single person when all you need is one bag of groceries. It's another thing to do it for a family with kids and et cetera. That's difficult.
It's not even that. There's no healthy options.
Exactly.
Right? There's I believe the gas station up the street, you can buy some small...
The GoCo.
So small food and that kind of thing, but there's no healthy options for vegetables and fruits and stuff like that.
What's the closest grocery store to the Fikeville neighborhood?
Well, that would be...
Is it Reed's or is it the Market Street Market?
I would, well, mass transit, I would think Wegmans might be, but I may be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Wegmans...
I think you might be right.
Yeah, Wegmans is,
Because you would just go down 5th.
You would go down 5th, and the mass transit, I believe there's a bus stop that would be able to get to go there.
You're right, it's Wegmans.
Right, I think Reed's is crosstown, which the traffic would be a bit...
And if it's public transport, you're hopping on different routes there.
Yeah, hopping different routes. I don't know the exact route, which, by the way, our show on Friday, the little plug for that, will be Neil Williamson and Ned Galloway, and we're actually going to talk a little bit of transit on that end of it and what's going on with Albemarle County.
Lisa Costello says, fellas, not so fast. The food line on 5th Street is closer.
Oh, yeah.
She's right.
100% right.
You're 100% right, Lisa.
You know, that's...
Because it's the same side of the road.
It's the same side of the road, but Food Line has done a lousy... Thank you for reminding us. For those who don't know it's there, you just don't notice it. You don't see the signs. I guess maybe because you're heading to 64 or something like that, but you're 100% right. Easier to get to. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa Costello.
So that's the answer. Food Line is
the closest one. She's right.
But
I mean, that's probably what? A mile, barely a mile, a little over a mile to Food Line?
So let's talk about what the existing zoning is for this parcel. So the existing zoning for this parcel is CH, and I have actually got the zoning ordinances in front of me, so I could actually speak with some...
He's not shooting from the hip.
I'm not shooting from the hip. This is exact out of it. So the CH zoning is an interesting zoning. It's probably the most liberal, for lack of a better terms, zoning ordinance within the city. There isn't a entrance, as it stands right now, there isn't an entrance core to the BAR, ARB. This is an architectural review board right on that end of it. So there is no additional review process as far as structure goes. It's basically what's in these 3 or 4 pages of it. So to make a long story short, the height maximum on that parcel is 50 feet if it's mixed use. You got to have a little commercial on the bottom. So the way they've got this ordinance set up is basically you have to have 13% of commercial of your total residential square footage. That makes sense. So if you got X number, if you've got 10,000 square feet of residential, you have to have 1,300 square feet of commercial, as that kind of works it up. The maximum height is 50 feet, so depending on how you do it, that's about 4 stories, right? There's tricks of the trade on that stuff. If you want to go to 5 or 6 stories, then it requires an SUP. But basically, by right, that parcel is 43 units per acre. It's a little shy of 2 acres, so for marine math, we'll call it 2 acres. That's 86 residential units. The struggle from a development perspective on that, as the current zoning is right now, is it's 1.5 parking spaces per residential unit, which isn't ridiculously high. So the parking generally becomes the problem. But right now, somebody can go in there, put 86 units in there up to it, figure out the parking, put about 13% of whatever it is of the lower level on the low level, and sell them, right? It's by right. There is no architectural review. You've got to meet a couple other standards. There's actually bonus density. If you do so much courtyard, you get so many square feet or more residential, so forth and so on. But to make the simple math, you can go in there and put 85 units in that today. It's interesting with the FLUM, and I think that substantially cuts these numbers down. So my suspicion, if I was the owner of the property, I'd probably get this in an application as soon as possible.
So I know Keith Woodard, he watches and listens to the shows we do here.
Cool.
What's your take on Keith Woodard? Woodard Properties. Anthony Woodard buying
Yeah,
this.
I don't know the man well enough to speak. I just know him by his work in here. My hope would be is that he reaches out to the Land Trust or some other affordable housing nonprofit and see if we can partner up on something like that, to see if we can go through the city and get some additional density, get some additional height, and take back the parking requirements. That's what's going to kill this project, frankly, is the 1.5. Just think about it. If you're 86 by right, or in order for this really to work, you got to be about 120 units to make the math work.
So how many spaces do you need for that?
Well, it's 120 times
180?
1.5.
180.
Yeah. So, and just think about
There's no way that can happen.
Well,
you'd have to build a underground parking deck for that.
You have to build a parking structure.
I guess you could go up.
You have to build a parking structure, right?
And I believe there is one next to it. Is it the hotel that has a parking structure there?
It has a kind of half underground, half above ground, but that's 100% right.
Yeah.
So what happens with that then is, you're looking at $50,000 a parking spot, right? And it just becomes cost prohibitive, because the best that you could market, let's just figure the market as it stands today, a 1,200 square foot, 1,400 square foot, 2-bedroom, condo in that area. Really, Gleason is the closest, and that's kind of a little bit above. You're probably somewhere between $350 and $450 in today's market dollars
for a 1-bedroom condo. I think that's probably light.
Yeah, it's probably light. Well, it's not. But it's not walking distance to downtown, right?
Pretty damn close.
I'm taking it. I'm being a little
conservative.
I'm being conservative on the sales value, and I did a search this morning, so I'm kind of feel comfortable about that price range.
For a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
Yeah, but then at $50,000 of that, well, it's probably 2-bedroom, probably in that range. Let's call it 400 just for simple math. When 50,000 of that 400 is a parking spot, the numbers don't work.
Well, and to put it in perspective here, if you put 180 parking spaces there at $50,000 a parking space, that's $9 million.
Yeah. So I think if I was Keith Woodward, how passionate I'm about housing affordability and all this great stuff. But if I was him, I'd get this in the system for some sort of site plan approval, because if because this could potentially be a down zoning for that parcel if they approve the FLUM.
Why don't we do this? Neil Williamson first, welcome to the program.
Hey, Neil. Neil knows more about this than I ever will.
Yeah, he's awesome. Neil Williamson is the king of content, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum.
But it could be a down zoning.
All-around A-plus guy. Viewers and listeners, there's a lot of you watching right now. Someone text message Keith Woodard, please, or Anthony Woodard. And text them now, Keith or Anthony.
And say Keith is talking about him.
I may DM him. In fact, I'll DM him. And tell him to watch and tune into the program. We're talking about, Sean Tubbs had this news out first, so we'll give Sean Tubbs props.
Absolutely, yeah.
Neil, make sure you pass along to Sean that we're giving him props here. Yeah. Sean Tubbs, and what he's doing with Town Crier Productions, Info Seville, and his Substack.
Sunday afternoon that's my primary reading.
So Sean got this news out first.
Yeah.
This is the type of news that is huge. I'd say this is a big news story, right?
This is a big news story.
It's been on the market for how long?
Oh, forever. I've been trying to buy it since 2015.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to put a deal together since 2015.
Would you say it's a big story?
I think it's a big story because I think what happens with that parcel is going to
determine Cherry Avenue.
Yeah. So
do you agree?
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So the Planning District Commission the city just adopted in 2022. Was it 2022 or 2021? Hang on one second. I believe it was 2022. Yeah, just adopted in 2022, March of 2022, the Cherry Avenue Small Area Plan, right? So what that is that's a micro comprehensive plan for the Cherry Avenue area.
And they did it in conjunction with the residents of Cherry and Fifield.
Oh, it was well done.
Yeah, it was very well done. One of the best small area plans done.
So it was one of the things that I'm part of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. One of the things that I'm proud of to watch that come through and happen through the process. Things that you talked about yesterday on your noon show was very much so in presence of that lack of food, right? Community services for the area. my proposal on it, I just couldn't get, like I said, much folks to come along, was, something like a Region 10 down in the bottom level food store, some sort of medical setup down in there.
Love that idea.
And then try to get 120 units in there, get the city on board to help us with it, where a certain percentage would be market and a certain percentage would be affordable, and just make a lovely mixed community following the kind of the outline that the small Cherry Avenue, small airport. Again, what next steps Mr. Woodward's going to take is obviously a business decision on his end, because he wrote a $3.5 million.
$3.5 million check. Yeah, he put the money where his mouth is, and
That's
he's walking the walk.
There you go.
And talking the talk. Neil Williamson says this for Keith. Keith, for what it's worth, page 54, Charlottesville zoning says this: reduce or remove parking requirements, particularly for developments providing affordable units.
That's exactly right.
And I just got a
So
text
I believe
that
you-
the Woodard office is watching now.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay, Keith Smith, what do you do with the Cherry Avenue parcel that was just purchased for $3.5
I
million?
think you're asking the wrong Keith. You need to ask.
They're watching. You're a consultant as well, right?
Yeah. Well, he knows. He's
Yeah.
a genius. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's very smart. All I know is what I was trying to do with it, which was to try to do a mixed use, mixed income property. And Neil is 100% right. If you have a certain percentage of affordable, you're able to walk some of your parking back. I was talking about if you were just following the by right setup of 43 residential units, it's 1.5 parking units per residential unit, which just turns
Ridiculous.
The 2 acres just turns into
A parking lot.
a parking lot.
Yeah, or a parking deck.
It'll be multiple stories. I spent a little time on money on it and came up with a couple of designs way back in 16 on it with engineering. It would have to be a ground level and then a second level parking deck, so which is extremely expensive to build, which throws the affordability out the window. So where there's a partnership that needs to, in my opinion, that should happen is amongst all the folks that are the players in this, much like what the Regional Housing Partnership is built on, right? The 4 pillars, which is the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofits, and the people we serve, and see if we can put a mixed-use project in there. But I'm curious what the Woodwards are thinking about this new FLUM and the new zoning ordinance, because my study of it is if it gets adopted, it could potentially be a downzoning on these parcels.
Neil says under the new zoning code, the parking reduction may be by right.
Well, I wouldn't misquote or contradict Neil on that end of it. I just only got into the CH zoning on it. I didn't go any further into the hundreds of pages of that. It could be by right. If you're making the commitment on it, it is an automatic reduction, but you've got to make that commitment, right? And in order to make that commitment, that density, I'm confident, has to be over 84 units. So that means now you need to get some sort of bonus density agreement with the city, which is going to be either an SUP, a zoning text amendment, or a rezoning on that to go ahead and amend that, right? And all that, has to get done, I think, before they put the zoning ordinance in place, because my study of that map is it literally cuts those parcels more than in half. They're 2 different shades of colors. One's yellow, one's pink, I think, or something.
Devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show. For the sake of a talk show. He spent a lot of money on this.
Excuse me?
He spent a lot of money to buy
Without
this.
a doubt, yeah.
He's going to spend even more money to do whatever he's going to do with it.
Well, that's the nature of this business,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And
I mean, we're talking like 10 million plus waiting to happen here.
well, it depends on what they wish to do with it, but
Yeah.
it could be way north of that.
Way north of that, exactly. Because of the cost, is the play what Kutner, Oliver was trying to do with studio apartments or studio condos to sell at the $400,000 clip or the $3,000 a month rent?
Yeah, so we're in
And the
fairness,
follow-up question to that is this: what does that do with gentrification to the neighborhood if that's the route that goes?
well, so we're not in the boardroom, we're not in the decision-making process that was made to purchase this. I'm just saying how I wanted to proceed with it, which would have helped with gentrification, which would have came in along what the small area plan is, take portions of it, and go ahead and move forward. I mean, theoretically, they can move forward with the by rights scenario on it and move forward on it, and then more than likely they're going to be condominiums that are in the 350, 450 range, which is not going to be quote unquote affordable.
No. What is a considerable amount of condominiums at the 350, $400,000 range that hit the for sale market due to the neighborhood? What does that do to increase taxes around the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, it would increase the taxes, but the question becomes what kind of, what is it? How does it impact the neighbors or the impact?
I mean, is this the start of gentrification?
Well, to be frank, actually, I'll be Keith.
You be Keith. I'll be Jerry. He's Judah.
Well,
Judah like that.
Then we got another Keith listening, so
Well, The Office.
Well, yeah.
You would think that would be.
Yeah. Well, it must be an awesome man. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If he was a lefty, that'd be even better.
Keith Smith's a lefty.
Which, how many years did it take?
It took me forever to realize that.
That. When I hold the pen in my left hand,
you're a lefty.
I'm a lefty. Yeah. So look. It's already happening. The gentrification of that neighborhood is already happening, right? It's happening. You just can take a look at the MLS and see how homes are turning over and being, updated or renovated or whatever in that end of it. So that it's happening in that neighborhood, on that end of it. I just think. I'm a little selfish about it because I spent a lot of time and my own money
you
trying.
Care.
I care too, very much so, on that end of it. So my hope is that if there's anything I can ever do for their team to help them put folks together, which they probably don't need my help, I'll be more than happy to put it together. But I just would be really curious to ask that team what the heck happens if this 2000 I lose my mustache and then the rezoning happens, and
I think you guys said by close of business June 2023, right? Was that the bet, Neil Williamson?
I believe we picked the date of the 19th, but was it
June 19th?
There's a piece of paper that I had to sign somewhere. I think actually Neil has it framed in his office, but so I think it's going to be over, whatever that date is that we picked. He thinks it's going to be under. I'm feeling actually pretty good about it, that we haven't even started the public discussion at the planning level yet, and we're at the end of the summer, things tend to slow down around the holidays in government.
That's an understatement.
And do that. But
and let's highlight this. There's no city manager, no police chief, and a buku amount of positions still open.
So I'm going to get myself into a little trouble by saying what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And you love it when I do that.
It makes for a great talk show.
It makes for a great talk show. I will tell you, I am ecstatic that it's out of the old owner's hands and is in the Woodward's team's hand, because I know for a fact
the old owner was a divorcee.
The old owner
who got the property in the divorce. She didn't want to develop it, nor do I believe she had the financial resources to do that.
I think she does now.
Well, she got $3.5 million. Yeah.
I think she's got something now.
Yeah.
My point that I was trying to make, Mr. Miller, was that I know it's kind of like when you go into the movie and you see if you don't advertise, nothing happens. I know nothing was going to happen under the old owner with the Woodward team. In it. We've got an opportunity for something to happen.
Oh, no doubt. Right? And the guy is local.
So it goes from that, very much so.
And he is committed to the community and his reputation. I mean, it's a great guy to buy this.
Well, since it's closed, part of the reason I couldn't get it under contract, there was a company out of D.C. that had it locked up in a super long study period.
Are you? I thought it was the company out of Baltimore that was the affordable housing company.
Yeah,
is it Evergreen or something like?
No, it's Enterprise.
Enterprise, yeah. And they specialize in affordable housing.
They specialize in affordable housing.
And dude, Chris Kabash, who's a friend of yours, friend of mine.
Yeah.
Dude has been hustling this.
Whatever commission he made,
it was not enough.
It was not enough. He earned his.
That's what I'm saying.
He earned his keep on that.
You agree with that, right?
Absolutely. But the point that I was trying to make was echo what you're saying is at least we have a local team, right?
Right.
We have a local team, right? We have a local team that can communicate. Hopefully, I know there's a little bit of a rub historically between the Woodwards and the city.
Well, that just got posted.
Yeah.
And this comes on the feed from Bill, and Bill makes a really good point here. He goes, and I'll read the comment directly. Keith has already been burned by the city on Water Street. He walked away from over $1 million of underground infrastructure.
Yeah.
He is not one to be trifled with.
No.
A lot of that Cherry Avenue, Fifield neighborhood has also been gentrified already near the railroad tracks.
Yeah. So if you dig into
Viewers are smart.
Yeah, well, that's way smarter than me. So if they go ahead and dig into that, you can go and see that. And you're 100% right. My hope is that they're maybe with new leadership in the city, we might be able to come together and work on something. But at the end of the day, he's the owner. It's a property rights state. He has the ordinance in front of him. If Neil is right, and if he puts a little bit of affordable housing in there, he can reduce his parking requirements by whatever percentage we can do it. I'm sure Neil's 100% right.
Yeah, no doubt.
On that end of it, and it just might be a project. I think if I was in that boardroom, I'd want to try to get a site plan submitted as soon as possible, because if they change the zoning ordinance, then what's in place at the time of submitting the site plan rules today. So basically you can grandfather it in versus waiting to go ahead and do it. That would be the play I would be making.
You got the folks down the street watching you here, NBC 29. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hey, welcome.
You ever need someone to offer you perspective on the record for real estate? Keith Smith's your guy, NBC 29.
On the record.
On the record. Okay. You're very good on camera in front of a microphone. You've had some practice.
A little bit, and as my grandmother.
I mean, you can handle a 15-second soundbite.
Those are harder.
The reason they're harder is because you have to be so succinct, because you know what you're going to say. They're just going to cherry pick a hot take.
Well, the problem
those are harder.
So you're 100% right. What I love about what we do, it's live, it's out there, it's unedited.
Yeah.
Whatever mistakes I make. And
it can't be misconstrued because it's long form content.
But that is, you never really, you could be saying, I'm holding a red Sharpie pen in my hand, and the red Sharpie pens are awesome, and then somehow or another it turns out that I think red Sharpie pens are horrible. I have no idea where that came from, but it came from the inner sanctums of my brain.
Nicholas Erpy says, Keith, you crack me up. The joke about being Frank and Keith will never not be funny. That was hilarious.
Well, that's if that was...
Love you, Nick Erpy.
Hey, Nick. That's a classic...
that one's hilarious.
Dad joke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
That one's fantastic. Travis in Danville. Keith.
Hey, Travis.
Is this a potential answer? Maybe to both commercial and housing affordability, combining housing with commercial, utilizing AMI on a certain percentage to keep the affordability, and utilizing the co-op model to keep commercial in check.
Yeah, so
explain what he's saying.
Yeah. So my interpretation of what Travis is saying, looking at it strictly from a balance sheet and how I'm going to build a project on the end of it, you have to carve off some of that commercial, because that commercial has value, or it has value in commercial dirt, has value in lease or sale, however you want to do it. I'm assuming the co-op, he's thinking he's going to sell some of the commercial up, which can offset some of the residential expenses on that end of it. It's kind of why some developers and builders are just that. Like, that's what I used to do. I developed and I built because, I could control the dirt.
You controlled it.
You can control the dirt on it. But, I mean, I know Travis is huge of these PPEAs, right? These private-public partnerships. I call them PPPs on that end of it. But, that's in essence what the Regional Housing Partnership, which I vice chair now, and Ned Galloway chairs, which he'll be in on Friday, on that end of it, is bringing these parties together. It's how we put together the deal with Stanley Martin, right, and the land trust, and we put everybody at a table and said, look, including the county, and said, look, this is what we need you to do. I don't need any money from you, or we actually received some, but we need you to interpret the proffer a certain way so we can proceed with this. So it worked out great. I think if you could put everybody in a room and have the right people in the room, there is some magic that can be made in that parcel. I've always believed it.
Oh my gosh,
I don't get any
gold.
I have no financial benefit at all in saying what I'm saying on this end of it. It actually costs me money. But my hope and my prayer is that we can put everybody together and turn that into something that is awesome. You've got the public transport. I think there's a willingness in the city to do something. The question is do we want to go through that brain damage again? As direct as I can be, right? Do you want to go through this brain damage and get to the end of the table and find out, all of a sudden I don't have a partner any longer?
Spencer just put that on the feed. Spencer, you watching in Crozet? He said, why would Keith do something like that when the city has already screwed him in the past?
Yeah, because I don't know.
We should highlight what happened, and I'm going to do this in broad strokes. Keith and his team were going to take the parking lot on Water Street, and they were going to build a pretty awesome building. And it was going to be the home to the farmers market, and it was going to make the farmers market even better. It was going to have shade. It was going to have a permanent home and a permanent structure. It was just going to be this like fantastic mixed use.
Set up a sales center right on the downtown mall.
Yeah, dude, he rented a storefront on the downtown mall as his sales center.
In the height of, not in COVID.
Before COVID, when downtown mall rents were at their absolute peak. He put nearly $2 million of underground infrastructure on Water Street, and he legitimately walked completely away from the project. And the reason he walked away from the project, he straight up said it, was the difficulty with dealing with the city of Charlottesville. Sure. Now, I want to stipulate this. The political climate and the willingness to work with developers has completely changed from when Keith was doing this on Water Street.
Sure.
There are new faces on city council. I will leave it at that.
Yeah, so that's the struggle of the business, right? I tell this story all the time. One of my first subdivisions, there was 150 lots, central water and sewer, VDOT roads, yada, yada, yada. I was able to put it on the contract, rezone it, get a site plan, and put a bulldozer on the job site in 6 months. Now it's years.
Yeah.
So what happens in years, right?
Look at what happened in COVID. That's a perfect example.
That's exactly right. But what happens in years is you have electeds change hands, potentially. You have staff that change hands.
City managers quitting.
Staff change hands. And you have this silly thing called the market changing.
Labor changing. Interest rates changing.
All these different things. So you're making a projection today that for 6 or 8 years down the road.
That's why the speculation with real estate is so risky.
Oh, yeah, I know a little bit about that.
He knows about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the market can change.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Travis adds this here. If someone has been burned by any city before, my experience is they know what the loophole is and they already have plans in place so they don't get screwed again.
Yeah, look, I don't know the Woodwards. I know them by reputation. Maybe one day we'll get a cup of coffee and get to know each other closer on that end of it. But business is business, right? I'm sure that this was looked at from a business perspective and what there potentially could be. And they've been around the block enough to know what I just outlined, that, there's one thing that I know about this business that's for sure, everything's going to change.
I mean, where does he stack up from like a developer in Charlottesville City? One of the top ones.
Yeah, I would say way up there.
Yeah.
And generally they like to be fly under the radar.
He somewhat does.
Yeah.
He's gotten more notoriety now.
Yeah, correct. Well, I think that episode with the city kind of
put him on the radar.
Put him on the radar.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just there's resources out there that hopefully he'll capitalize on, which I'm sure he will, and I hope to see a mixed use, mixed income in there. I think live, work, play would be great and help the neighborhood a little bit with some food, solving the food desert problem there. I think this has great opportunities.
Chris Kirtley leaves this comment. Chris, is this your first comment on the network?
Uh-oh.
I don't think I've mentioned your name before, Chris.
No, I can tell you. I don't remember that.
Where are you watching, Chris? And thank you for this comment. Thank you for participating. How often have you been watching and listening to the shows? Chris says this, he goes, with that kind of money needed to purchase and that kind of money needed for development, sure, you can put a grocery store, maybe a smaller one. It's certainly not going to be the size of Kroger or Teeter or Wegmans, a smaller one on the first level, but I would imagine he's going to try to recoup his money by selling condominiums.
Yeah, I mean, that's the turnaround. Look, there's a second half of this, right? This plan that we're looking at could say this is what we want and all this kind of great stuff, but a food company, a grocery store company, has got to look at it at their own business model and say, does this work?
Because he's not going to get a Kroger, Wegmans, Harris Teeter. They're just not, the footprint's not large enough.
I can tell you there's a project that I'm part of called Colonial Circle out in Fluvanna County, right? It's being developed right now. It's got perfect spot for a grocery store out there. I can assure you, all the smaller grocery store footprints, the Aldis, all this kind of stuff that I'm looking at, the numbers don't work. They won't move out there.
Now, what he could get is the guy who owns the grocery, and I'm just spitballing, the guy who owns the grocery store next door, Raphael, he has the Crozet IGA he owns.
Sure.
He owns this one,
Sure.
Market Street Market, and he owns one in Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
So he's specialized in that 8 to 10,000 square foot smaller grocery
Sure.
store, and he's monetizing it and making it work.
Sure. That's probably the perfect partner out there, because that's really what it is. It's really going to be a partner, even if it's a lease scenario. As a landlord, it's a partnership. You're betting on this entity to be successful, right? That's why when you go ahead and lease a piece of property, you generally want to give them business plans, all this kind of great stuff, because they don't want a vacant space. It's not good for anybody.
Kevin Higgins is watching in Greenwood. Kevin, we love when you watch the show, ! Enter. He has some comments. He says he has no doubt that Keith is going to do this the right way. He says Keith takes incredible risk in a smart way.
Sure.
He said dealing with the city is like pulling his teeth. Keith is going to hit it huge. My bet is that he does not care about the dough, the money.
Yeah, that's. I don't know the man well enough to make a statement like that, but he has responsibilities to
Yeah, he's
other
got
people.
staff.
I'm sure at some level there's an absolute care to it. Yeah. So I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it on this end of it. I'm just super curious. I'm going to track it because I've kind of got a personal connection to it.
Oh, by far you do.
Over the years on that end of it. I'll just kind of wrap up. I hope.
How about this question? Jennifer Carini says, Keith, do you expect the project to completed by when? Impossible to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe she's asking this.
Even if a plan was put together that made sense, let's assume we're going the by right route.
Which is the easiest.
Yeah. I would say it would take anywhere between 18 to 24 months just to go through the site plan process. Keep in mind, under the current zoning, you don't have to, there's no ARBs, there's no architecture review board, so you just need to go through the site plan process to meet all the requirements, setbacks, so forth and so on, parking requirements, and that'll probably take a year and a half to 2 years is my suspicion. Erosion control measures, all these different things to do that before you can start going vertical.
She follows up by saying this, will we see a finished product by 2030?
God,
that's
where's the crystal ball?
7 years and change
Where's
from
the
now.
crystal ball? I mean,
Possible to tell.
yeah. I mean, I'm what I'm about to say, I have no information on. Right, this is just a possibility. It also could have been a 1031 exchange too, and they could just park it and just leave it there.
Well, we hope that's not the case.
Well, it's an option, right?
Yeah.
That's a business move, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it was, I'm not saying it wasn't, right? Not in the room, not in the know, but I mean that is an option. Somebody can do a 1031 exchange on something like that because another property was sold on that end of it, and they could just pay the taxes and park it there. I think that would be a bad move, particularly since the 2023, I'm either going to have a mustache or not on that end of it, could seriously impact the zoning of these parcels.
Bill says he should put a dollar store in there.
Yeah, so, again...
There's one in the Food Lion Shopping Center.
Yeah, so I know a little bit about dollar stores. I was helping some clients. They have such a very narrow business model and demographic. What makes sense to you and I won't make sense to them. A prime example, trying to get Chick-fil-A to come to Zion's Crossroads will not come to Zion's Crossroads. I don't get it, right? I just don't get it. All you got to do is ask their analysis, El Mariachi, right? They're doing great. I don't get why you wouldn't want to put it.
What do they say, not enough people?
Yeah, the numbers, the spreadsheet doesn't add up. The bean counters or the chicken counters, chicken sandwich counters, right, because it's not beans. I thought that was
That was good. That was very good.
Don't add up, which is silly.
Which is crazy. Because you're saying, look into the future, guys.
It's not even the future.
Look what Walmart's there, Lowe's is there. Richmond and Charlottesville are connecting. It's off the interstate.
Yeah, but so my point is on the Dollar General, they have a very narrow space that they work in, and if it's outside of that space, it won't happen.
Good comments right there. Nicholas Erpy, I found this somewhat amusing. He said, I would have been very happy to have had that kind of indoor market for Charlottesville. That would help Charlottesville a lot. Look how much traffic the Charleston, South Carolina market gets. Also, he parked on Water Street on Sunday, and they had to go down the stairs, he and his wife, because there was a huge rat in the parking lot, which made them change their walking path.
That was your pet. He wanted to come home with you.
I've seen some rats in that parking garage. Judah, have you seen some
I
from
don't
time to time?
Yeah, I guess because where I grew up, it
doesn't sketch you out.
no.
Yeah.
No.
He grew up in Brooklyn.
A snake.
Yeah,
A
snakes
snake would freak me out.
scare the hell out of me.
Freak me out. But rats are just pets. That's all.
This is what Neil Williamson has shared. First, Judah, if you can get the one shot on me, and then I'm going to show it to Keith. First, Neil Williamson shares this.
Go.
Okay, don't look. Close your eyes, and then I'll show you the reaction. Close your eyes.
I'm closing my eyes.
Okay.
You
Neil
treat me like
Williamson
a
shared
kid.
this to me. Are you getting it on screen right there? Yeah. Okay. Now we'll show it to Keith. I have a feeling this is about our bet. This is get ready, distinguished gentlemen. You're shaving that stash on set, dude.
Yeah. Should I tell the story about the mustache and make him feel bad? He probably won't.
I don't think he would care.
Yeah, I don't think
he
he
would care.
I don't think he would care.
I think he's ready for that mustache to be gone. I've never seen you without a mustache. I don't think your kids have.
I have had this mustache on since 1985.
1985. Quick math, Judah
I
Wickower.
was in
37 years.
I was in a Zoom meeting with somebody that there's a Keller Williams.
Nicholas Erpy says he was fine, but Mrs. Erpy does not like rats.
Yeah, I get it.
Totally get it.
Well, she married an awesome guy, so why would she like rats?
Totally get it. Nick, you did the very chivalrous thing, right? And you killed that rat, and then you took your jacket off or your shirt off, and you put it over the rat, and you allowed her to walk over it without bloodying her Louis Vuittons. You did that, right, Nick?
This is getting a little deep here.
I don't think Nick did that.
I think it's getting a little deep here. I only got my Van sneakers on. I didn't put my boots on.
I like those.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to wear my red ones today, but it was a bit too much.
So finish your thought here.
Yeah. So no, I had the mustache since 1985. That's all. And maybe if I lose, I'll tell the story why I wear the mustache since 1985, which hopefully might pull at Mr. Williamson's heartstrings.
You want to tell him now?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of it's not a happy story.
Okay.
If somebody Googles a little bit and takes a look at San Salvador in 1985, a bunch of my buddies were killed in San Salvador. It was a targeted assassination. And when I was in the Marine Corps, and I wear this, it's a difficult story to tell, I wear this mustache in honor of these guys on that. So I've never taken it off since then, other than this dumbass bet.
I mean, yeah, Neil, maybe we change the mustache to him shaving his head. Will you shave your head instead?
No, that's worse.
Oh, that's worse.
That's worse. Yeah, no. So it's in honor of a couple of buddies that were killed.
Jamie Turner is interacting with Nick Erpy on a different Facebook page. Jamie Turner, so the show airs on 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, all over social media, and the content is cool because I get to watch people ping around with content on the various pages.
And I can tell when it's rocking and rolling.
Oh, it's rocking.
Because your fingers are flying.
It's rocking.
Right. Your watch is ringing, your phone is going.
Jamie says this, and now Bill's responding to the rats. He said, Jamie said this, he's repping the PEP and the mayor of Gordonsville. He says the last time he was in downtown Charlottesville, the rats were the size of New York City rats.
I don't believe that, but that's okay.
New York City rats are what? The size of footballs.
Yeah, they're pets.
They're ginormous.
They're pets.
Oh,
you remember this. What was the movie in the 70s, the name of the movie in the 70s that was about a rat? It was
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
No.
Splinter the Sensei?
No,
Splinter?
No, that's not the
Turtle
70s.
Power?
That's not the 70s. It was a first name 3 letters started with a B. There you go, Ben.
What is it?
Ben.
Did you watch that movie? Can you go 3-shot and talk into the mic so the viewers and listeners can hear you? Oh, that's generally the rule of talk shows. It's generally the rule of talk shows.
It was in the 70s. I remember that as when I was a young strapping lad.
You're still a young strapping lad.
Thank you. Ben, right? It was a story about a guy who had a pet rat named Ben.
Erpy says bald is beautiful. Nick, embrace it. Bald is beautiful. Embrace it.
No,
Nick Erpy wears bald well.
Yeah. We are going to stick with the bet that I made with Neil, and I can always grow it back.
Judah Wickhauer, what do you remember from that movie? Now that you're on screen,
I don't
think I ever saw it.
How did you get that right, though? I'm impressed that you got it.
Well, I've heard of it. I don't know how or when, but I've heard of it. And it's about a lonely boy who befriends Ben, the leader of a violent pack of killer rats. But it came out in '72, which is 3 years before I was born. So,
Bill McChency says the rats have their own swimming pool in Central Place on the downtown mall.
How did we?
Nicholas got us on the rats. Nicholas got us on the rats.
I'm trying to talk about.
Multiple people are saying the movie was Ben. The movie was Ben.
Yeah, Ben. Yeah. I remember it. Yeah.
Viewers and listeners are so smart.
So that was like the beginning. That was the beginning of the disaster movie thing, right? There was Ben, there was Earthquake, there was Towering Inferno, the Poseidon Adventure. It was a thing back in the early mid '70s.
How do you characterize the
middle '70s?
No.
It was kind of interesting.
Multiple folks are putting on the feed here. Did you see the Goldman Sachs report from yesterday on housing?
I did. So here's the
multiple people are sharing that link.
Yeah. So
wasn't a great report.
Yeah. So look, those are national numbers, and they kind of blended a little bit together. We talked on Monday, right, when we took a look at different sections in different parts of our jurisdiction. Some are a little bit off, right? Some a little bit off. But none of the ones that we looked at locally, the volume may have been down, but the sales numbers were up. In other words, the dollar amounts were up. Some of them were up substantially. So look, oh God, you're smiling. So let me get serious for a minute.
Okay, please. I'm sorry. I'm catering to your ADHD. Neil Williamson just made me laugh out loud by sharing what a photo you would look like if you were bald and had no mustache.
Yeah, of course.
Do you want to see what Keith would look like?
Hold it, Neil. Doesn't he have work to do?
He is working.
Oh, jeez.
He's working.
I will take Richard. I will take, what's the actor's name?
Sir.
I'll take that.
What's his name?
Any day of the week.
Judah. I'm drawing a blank on this guy.
He played Star Trek Richard Pritchard. Can't remember his name.
No, what's his name, Neil? Damn it. I'm drawing a blank too. Judah. You got Ben. Do you know his name?
So, you guys are on rats,
this is too
bald
funny.
heads, no mustache.
Sir,
I'm trying to have a remote discussion
I gotta get the
with the Woodward organization to see what we can work together on a Cherry Avenue project. I'm trying to be serious.
For the first time in the history of Real Talk.
It's Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Sir Patrick Stewart. Yes.
Is that right? Stewart?
Yeah.
Sir Patrick Stewart?
I can assure you I will not look that good if I was bald and without a mustache.
You could pull that off, dude.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. All right. So Goldman Sachs report. You want to touch on that?
Yeah. So what are the viewers saying about that? What's their read on it?
I mean, the unfortunate thing about this is it's freaking everywhere. It's all over the national media. Goldman Sachs is saying the U.S. housing market downturn will be way worse in 2023 than right now. Goldman Sachs,
So what define that, right? That's the problem.
The firm projects sharp declines this year in new home sales, 22% drop, existing home sales, 17% drop. That's pretty much where Charlottesville is. They expect housing GDP to drop nearly 10%.
So I disagree with that comment. It depends on where you're at.
Charlottesville, Albemarle County, all had existing home sales, we're talking volume, drop at about a 17% clip. We learned that Monday. So far this year.
Sure.
Nelson County's dropped year over year 50%.
It's 50%. Yeah.
Now, Greene County and Fluvanna,
But
to Keith's point, are not in that case.
They are not in that case, but the dollars are gone up. So when you got both dropping, that's when things are not looking good. It's the volume is just dropping a little bit. And then what you really need to take a look at is the volume compared to, say, pre-pandemic, right? So if we're comparing, like we did on the show on Monday, the last 60 some odd days to last year was an anomaly. That was just ridiculously
Yeah, we throw
off
that
the
out.
charts. And I bet you even you compare it to 2020 was a little bit off the charts because as we predicted in the beginning of COVID, we hit a very sharp V. We went down and came shot straight up on that end of it. So what we're predicting here is we shot up, we're dropping a little bit, but I would, and I didn't do those numbers, but I'd love to take a look at, so what's the last 60 days in Charlottesville versus the last 60 days in 2000, and let's say 18 or 19. So I can actually probably do that as we're talking here.
So the other
Or
thing,
not.
the other thing folks are asking, no, you should, you absolutely should. Other things that folks are asking about is various members of various Fed banks have said that interest rates will continue going up well into next year.
So let's quantify interest rates. Are we talking about short-term interest rates, or are we talking about mortgage rates?
All the above.
Yeah. So short-term is going to go up. Look. That's the only way. That's the only tool, and I may be wrong. It's the only tool that they've got to slow inflation down. It's the two rates really, and the mortgage rate. The Fed really doesn't have control over, right?
But there is a correlation.
There's a correlation. There's an emotional connection there because the mortgage rate is a market-driven thing, and so I think. Our good friend Scott Morris with Ross Mortgage has been calling the right, so I'm going to rely on his data. I think you're going to see somewhat of a balancing out on the end of it. But, when we were looking at numbers on Monday, and that was why I wanted to do that show on Monday, we were looking at units that were closing when rates were higher than they are now. Right? So they went under contract, they closed, business is happening, homes are trading back and forth. It's just the volume is a wee bit off.
How about this question? If the rates go up and the inventory remains tight, what kind of market are we in? Thank you, Kelsey, for the question.
We're still in a seller's market.
Locally,
We are locally,
Locally,
we're
it's
not
a
even
seller's market.
close. Now, locally, this is going to come out wrong. Locally from a macro perspective, maybe those numbers might get a little bit closer to it. But when you start really taking a dive into each individual neighborhood, which is what we do well, we should do better. You're still, we're not even close to 60 days.
Yeah, you got
on market.
homes like, there was a house in Ednam, guys, that just went on the market that was in pretty darn good shape that literally traded in 48 hours. And we're talking at a price point of like 1.7, 1.6. This is the front end of Ednam by Boar's Head. So the homes are moving. Even the expensive homes are moving. And we continue to emphasize this on the program. We are not at peak population for Charlottesville when it comes to the University of Virginia and its offerings. The data science school not fully online right now. We're at not peak offering, and we know there are businesses that are waiting for the data science school to set up and get running before they open up satellite offices to poach that talent. I know a fact of 2 coming once the school is open. So we're not at peak capacity. We hope, and I'm knocking on laminate and particle board? Chipboard, what'd you call it?
I'd have to look underneath, but let's call it chipboard.
Okay, chipboard and laminate, is that
I'm
what
pretty
it is?
sure it's not plywood.
Okay, chipboard and laminate.
Charlottesville,
Yeah, please, give us the data.
78 units sold, last 60 days, from today back, 60 days. 78 units closed, 5 days on market, which is your median, and the median sales price is $477. So let's go back.
I love when he does this.
Let's go back and look at, you want to go to 19?
Jamie Turner says he loves when Mr. Smith tries to keep us in line and is laughing. Normally it's him that's causing the shenanigans.
Usually the other way around.
Normally it's him that's doing the tomfoolery.
Well, when you have somebody like the Woodward team watching, all of a sudden I gotta stand up straight and
Good thing you wore your sports coat today.
I wore my sport coat. All right, very interesting. We're picking 19, the same
Please.
60 days in 19. Do you want to take a guess?
So he's comparing the last 60 days in 2022 to the same 60-day period in 2019.
City of Charlottesville, single-family detached, no new construction, no townhomes or condos. These are just single-family detached units. Would you want to guess how many sold in 19? Same 60-day period?
19, what were the rates at? Higher than they are now?
No. 19 was,
What, 19, they were in the fours?
yeah, I'd say high
Yes.
threes, low fours.
So
I'd have to look it up to go ahead and
I'd
do
have to
it.
look at it too. I'd say you probably look at a point
74
difference.
units sold.
So the same. We're at 78 now, 74 then?
So that's my point,
Yeah.
right? Right. Oh, by the way, the DOMs were much higher, 15 days. 15 days. Median sales price was 378. Let's call it 378. That's 2019. Now, last year,
I love when he does this.
just let me not screw it up.
He's doing it on the fly here. We encourage everyone to go to realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, click the partner tab. This is me very strategically and capably filling time as Keith Smith is utilizing his computer to get us the data we need. Realtalkwithkeithsmith.com,
Look at
click
this,
the
look at
partner
you.
tab.
Look at you. Okay.
A little practice.
A little, yeah, you've done this once.
21 years of doing this.
Yeah. So speaking of 2021, there was 89 units sold. So that's last year. 89 units sold. DOMs were 7. So we're actually beating last year's in DOM. This is median. This is not average. Sales price was $425. So we're roughly up 50 grand year over year. The volume is down. I can't do the math quick enough. And if Nick is watching, he can do it. But the difference between 89 and 78 as far as percentage goes.
Wait, 11? So you're talking
Yeah,
what? 12, 13%?
I was going to call it 12%.
Yeah.
It's around 12%. So that's 2020. That's 2021. You want to do 2020?
Please. He's striking out the COVID period because we're calling it an anomaly. And unfortunately, a lot of the data that's coming out with the national networks is comparing this year to last year. And a lot of the people that are in the game are saying it's not a fair comparison because last year was such an anomaly, it shouldn't be used as the barometer for comparison. And I understand both sides of the coin. I understand why people want to compare it to last year. It's the most recent data. But perhaps the insiders, the sharks, these guys.
2021 was way off. 2020, 79. So keep the last 60 days was 78. So let's call it par. It was 7 days on the market. So 2020 and 2021 had the same amount of days on market, which was higher than the last 60 days. Big difference was price point. 417 versus 477. So that's what, 70 grand, 60 grand? 60 grand on if I did my math right, 60 grand.
How about this one? Do you think it's going to be more affordable? I can answer this for you. Is the housing affordability going to become even more of a problem?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's going to be.
Yeah, the point I'm...
That's what he's saying, because there's not enough inventory.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're looking at the city of Charlottesville. None of the median days on market were over 15, and that was in 2019. So everybody, average and medians, median throws out the high and the low, so we're kind of looking down the middle, such as the name. If you do the average, the days on market may be a little bit higher.
It's skewed.
But if you go ahead and talk to the experts, I use days on market. People use absorption rate, which there's a mathematical formula.
DOM is the easiest.
To me, it's Marine Corps proof, right? It's easy.
It's
to
easiest
look at.
Yeah.
But we're not even getting to that point.
Which is what? Balanced is 60.
I think 60
Yeah.
is.
I trust you. You taught me a lot.
Yeah. So, and all we got to do is, if you want to know that, pick a year. 2010 was in the middle of the time of great unpleasantness, right? Mm-hmm. Right? So same data, same setup, same 60 days. 2010, there was 46 units sold.
What he's trying to say is, guys, it's not.
You want to take a
It's not doom and gloom, is what he's.
You
doing.
want to take a stab at
2010
days on market
in 2010.
Yeah. City of Charlottesville. Same 60-day
I'd
little
say
swath.
70 plus.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
79.
So yeah. You've taught me a lot on this show.
So think 2010, think 79 days on the market. The average, just for that little snapshot on it, was 141. So there was some way over 79 and some obviously
Median's
below
better.
that. Below that, yeah. So it was 80 days. I'm going to round it up. I'm going to call it 80 days.
I mean, it's a huge difference.
That is a
Not even comparable.
We're at 5 days versus.
How does someone get into the market, though? Get into a home ownership with this kind of market?
Yeah.
That's the problem. The people that have the homes got the equity. The people that have the homes can sell the homes and make some money.
So
But if you don't have the cash, how do you get in the home?
Yeah, 70. Well, that's the thing. You're paying a little bit more. You have to bring a little bit more cash to the
You're
table.
competing still.
You're competing still on that end of it. But homes are trading. We are hitting in a 60-day snapshot, right? This isn't the whole thing only in the city of Charlottesville, only single family detached things. We're hitting the number of units that were back in 2020. 2019, it's close enough, 4 units off in 2019. The numbers are substantially different on the sale price. The point I'm trying to make here is, you're going to need a trusted advisor. You're going to need everybody that's on our chain of folks that are in this sphere of our business on our partner page on
Real Talk with Keith Smith.
With Keith Smith, thank you. On that end of it. But that's when you start reaching out to your trusted advisors, your trusted partners, and go through it. I literally do not see, and it's just not me. When as you know, I don't like to tout my horn too much, but a week from today, I'm going to be receiving this award in D.C. For this national award on being a trendsetter and all this stuff, and it's all going to be all the CEOs, major CEOs of all the major real estate, Realogy, all this fun stuff that's going to be there, and I'm going to attend some chats, some presentations that these folks with all kinds of PhDs, Lawrence Yoon's going to be there. All these, our good
Chief economist of NAR.
Our good friend Lisa Steravent is going to.
The good doctor, chief economist for Bright.
Right now is going to be there, and every one of their speakings and their writings, it's just not some guy behind a microphone right here with a cool mustache.
This is literally what they do.
And we just read it and interpret it and put it back out there a little bit, but nobody's talking about. There's no indication of that. That doesn't mean.
All right, so this question's come in. Then what worries you, Keith?
Yeah, inflation always worried me. I think what worries me is loosening of the lending. I know this is hard, right? So the lending requirements are pretty strict right now, which is kind of hurting first-time home buyers, right?
Definitely.
Kind of,
but it's in a way, it's protecting them.
Well, the problem is a few bad apples is hurting everybody, right? The whole problem in 2010 is people were trading equity out of their homes to buy the new yacht, or not yacht, boat, whatever the heck it was, on this kind of stuff. Not putting it back into their property, not putting it back into their asset on top and growing value, or reaching out to ISC, right? Interstate Service Company. No,
there you
serious.
Go. Very nicely done.
No, seriously, to reach out to them and say, okay, I want to renovate my kitchen. I want to do whatever to it, or Pearl, or Segura, or any of the great folks on this thing. We heard on Friday with Tad on Segura Home, right? You can get 5%. Pearl certification will help you with that stuff. These are the times to have these conversations and put those type of investments into your home, and then track out what your value is going to be X years down the road. Not buy a boat, though I would love.
You have a boat.
I would love it.
You have a boat. You have a boat. Segura Home. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I learned something last week. It was a damn good show. Segura Solar is now rebranded. They're Segura Home, and they will work alongside you as a homeowner to replace your roof. Segura does it itself, and add solar panels to your roof. Segura does it itself. They will bundle the cost of replacing and adding a new roof to your house, plus the installation of the solar panels. They will finance that for you. You're not going to find any roofing company that's going to finance roof installation for you. I haven't found one. Have you found one?
No.
Normally,
by the way, I had a conversation with our accountant, and I think we can roll in the roof.
Yeah. So explain this to everybody.
Yeah. So what we did is because at the time we had Pearl, we had Segura Home come out do an assessment. This was a pre-pandemic said, look, you need a new roof, you need to upgrade your 20-something-year-old HVAC systems. We've done that over the course of the last 24 months, and now we're ready to bring them in and do it. And one of the things Tad was telling us is you might be able to get 30% tax credits back, and those of us who are independent contractors, that's an important feature.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal,
especially
right?
Since you're doing well, like you are.
Well, yeah, it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Because we need to prepay our taxes and all that kind of great stuff. It doesn't get deducted out of our payroll and so forth and so on. I think we can do that. I think there's a certain period of time that has to go by, and we're not there yet to go ahead and do that. So we're excited about moving forward with some Segura home solar on our roof.
I mean, that's big time right there. That's absolutely big time.
So do you know what scares me about the market?
What?
Is that article.
Yeah.
It's fear. People maybe not listening to Keith and Jerry for an hour and a half, or however long we're talking on that kind of great stuff, or doing their own research, or doing all this stuff, or taking a look what's happening in their local market. And you take a look at this, and I've got multiple phone calls from that. Oh my God, the sky is falling. You know what? It's not.
Right.
It's not falling. It's difficult for first-time home buyers. That is for sure. And we need to do something to see what we can do to help the first-time home buyers. Actually, you gave me an idea, and somewhere between now and the end of the year, I've been wanting to do a home buyer seminar live, bring in certain folks. So sometime I'm going to work on that concept to do a first-time home buyer kind of seminar.
That's a great idea.
Bring somebody like Bill Tucker in, Closure, all these folks that are in our chain, and try to help them navigate. How do you start? How do you do this?
I love it. Judah Wickower is the director. Keith Smith, some closing thoughts for the viewers and listeners.
Keep me in your thoughts and prayers for next Wednesday, because I'm going to be way out of my league, giving a little chat and getting a little bit of award. So I'm going to be the guy walking around going, oh, doo-doo.
No, that's not true.
I don't know about that.
Is that DC?
It's in the
Riz Media?
Yeah,
that's big time.
It's in the Mayflower Hotel right next to the White House, and I'm going to be going.
No, you very much belong there, my friend.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Love you, man. RealTalkWithKeithSmith.com. This guy crushes it. You see sincerely and genuinely what he's all about, and why you can count on Keith and his beautiful wife, Yona Smith, to help you navigate this market, which is challenging but doable.
But they're
not all challenging. This one's challenging. COVID wasn't necessary.
No. I know we're running late, but 12 months ago, it was a challenge, right?
Different kind of challenge.
That's the point I'm trying to make, is there's always this, I've been doing this long enough to know, there's always a challenge, right? There's always a challenge. So it's how you navigate that challenge, how we're in the education business, how you set expectations, how you educate, how you communicate with us. We're not in the selling business. We're in the education, communication, and the expectation management business, and you help your clients navigate, just like what the ERPs do, right? They help navigate us through our process. So panicking is, to talk about the Marine Corps, as soon as you hit panic, that's when bad things happen. So stay focused. We'll be in good shape.
Well said. Keith crushed it today. Judah, you crushed it as well. The show archived at RealTalkWithKeithSmith.com, RealTalkWithKeithSmith.com, presented by Yes Realty Partners, and we'll throw some love to our friend Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage.
Tune in on Friday. Please be writing down some of your questions for Sir Neil and Ned Galloway as related to Albemarle County. We're gonna do a little litmus test, little health of Albemarle County. We haven't done that in quite a while, and when Ned, how this all came about, Ned bumped into Neil at an Albemarle County Board of Supervisors and said, "How come Keith hasn't invited me back?" So that's all it took, and we're going to get together.
I love it. This show, guys, live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the I Love CVille Network. Thank you kindly for joining us. We will see you guys at 12:30 with the I Love CVille show. So long, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
Well done, Keith.
Yeah, thank you.